Minister, Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. And as Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing and the Minister responsible for TransLink, I'm absolutely delighted to rise today in support of this throne speech, a throne speech that outlined a clear path to improve services and make life better and more affordable for people. Our government has made aggressive commitments to address the frustration that people have been feeling for years, and it's frustration that I certainly heard when I was sitting on the other side of this House. They've had years of rising living costs, dwindling services, and fewer opportunities. Action on these items and these commitments that you've heard in this throne speech, Honourable Speaker, will be front and centre in next week's budget, including historic investments in housing for British Columbians. Now, preparing a comprehensive housing strategy and preparing for the largest housing investment in BC history was a tremendous amount of work, not just for me, Honourable Speaker, but certainly for a whole number of people who work in my ministry and in the BC Housing staff. And I want to express my extreme gratitude for their hard work, not only in putting together this comprehensive housing strategy, but taking very swift action that when we announced in our September 2017 budget update, and able to deliver on some immediate situations right around the province. And they have done the lion's share of the work, and I want to thank all of them for their commitments. I also want to thank my ministerial staff here in Victoria, Craig Ashburn, Daniela Gardea, Christine White, Lisa Grant, and Matt DeJohnlick. They help keep things running smoothly and make sure that I have the opportunity to meet with the people I need to meet with, that I continue to hear the stories of British Columbians, and that we put together this comprehensive housing strategy that addresses the needs of British Columbians for the long term. I also want to thank certainly my constituency assistants, Laura Gullickson and Linda Oscarson, because they keep things going on the home front, making sure that my constituents are well taken care of, and they do a fabulous job. And of course, where would any of us be without our family support? So I want to extend gratitude to a fabulous husband, Dan Robinson, and my kids, Aaron and Leah Robinson, and my dad, Irv, who's probably my biggest cheerleader, Irv Dardick, and my in-laws, Gary and Sandra Robinson, because they're our support systems, and I think that everybody here in this House usually uses their throne speech to acknowledge their support systems. Mostly, Honourable Speaker, I want to thank the constituents of Coquitlam-Millardville. They sent me here, and they have been. It's their voices that I bring into this chamber with me every single day, and it's their voices and their stories that I heard on the doorstep, certainly over the last 4.5 years, that have propelled me to make sure that we address housing affordability in particular and affordability in general. Mr. Speaker, it's my job, my ministry's job, to ensure that our work supports strong, healthy communities that are full of opportunity. Communities, whether they're large or small, urban, suburban, or rural, they all want to be thriving places where we can raise our families, where we can age in place, and where we can have a good life that we're all prepared to work hard for. But due to the magnitude of the problems in our housing market, my predominant focus has been on housing affordability. It is the single biggest affordability issue facing our province today. And we will not follow the path of the previous government that failed to address the housing crisis and just let the costs pile up for people. Our government is taking action to help make housing more affordable. We will curb speculation in BC's housing market. We will make the largest investment in housing in BC history to help build homes for people. And we will provide security and safety for renters and make sure that landlords have a balanced system so that we can ensure that there's rental stock for years to come. The speech from the throne commits our government to take bold steps. More details will be coming in the budget next week, but I want to take a little bit of time today to tell you and to tell this chamber and to tell British Columbians who we're going to be helping, because those are the voices that have propelled us to this place. We will be taking action to assist more than 1.5 million renters and manufacturer homeowners in our province, many of whom live in fear of unexpected rent increases and unfair evictions. We will help post-secondary institutions and students with their housing needs. Honorable Speaker, I have a friend of mine in my community who lives on a bus route in Coquitlam, and she said for the first time in the 12 or 15 years that she's living in this house, she's had 2 different students, one came at the end of August, one came at the beginning of September, just out of nowhere, out of the blue, just knock on her door. And the first one knocked on her door and said, I'm a student up at SFU. I cannot find housing. I've been trying for the last 4 weeks. I can't find anything. Do you have a room to rent? And this woman, Jennifer, just was shocked. In all the years, she'd never had that. But it doesn't end there, Honorable Speaker. A few weeks later, in September, she had another student, also at SFU, because we live close to the university, said, would you mind, can I rent a pad in your backyard because they have lane access? Can I park my van? I'll sleep there, but can I park my van? I'll pay you rental if I can sleep in my van while I go to school. And when she told me these stories, I was horrified because in all the years that she had lived there, in all the years that I had lived in Coquitlam, I had never had a student randomly out of the blue come and knock on a door saying, help. And our government is here to help those very people. We know that the stress that students face can be helped by doing things differently. And by showing some real leadership at the provincial level, we can make things better for them. By making investments to support students on campus housing needs, we will be able to free up affordable rental in communities. Imagine that, Honorable Speaker, where the students can get housing wherever they're going to school. They don't have to scrounge around, knock on strangers' doors, hoping they can get a room, but instead they can get housing on campus. And think about what that means for all of that affordable rental that students do take up, because students do find affordable housing in communities right across British Columbia. And that will free up a significant amount of housing for others who need affordable homes. We want to, Honorable Speaker, restore hope and opportunity for young families as well. For these young people, we have an aggressive agenda to build more affordable rental housing. And let's not forget about seniors, Honorable Speaker. We know about seniors. We know that they need more housing options so they can stay in their communities, even when they want to downsize. Many communities across the province have identified suitable and affordable homes for local seniors as a major gap in their local housing stock. And this is a story I heard certainly from local governments when I was at the UBCM. I've certainly heard it in my community where the 2 choices for living are either in your traditional single-family home where you've raised your family, or you have to downsize into a very tiny bachelor apartment. Those are the only choices. There's nothing else that exists in terms of rental stock, or housing stock, not even rental stock. So we know that there's a serious gap. And our government will seek to fill that gap. And we're going to address the need as we deliver on our commitment to build 114,000 units of new affordable housing for British Columbians. We also know that rents continue to rise and seniors are struggling to pay their household bills. We've certainly heard stories of seniors having to make choices between medication and rent. And that's why we're expanding eligibility and increasing benefits for the SAFER program, the Shelter Aid for Elderly Renters program, to help low-income seniors afford their rent. We also know, Honorable Speaker, that women and children fleeing violence and abuse also need more attention from provincial government. The old government just ignored them. We will be making a significant investment into housing options for women and children fleeing abusive relationships so that they have a safe place to stabilize and to rebuild their lives. As we work with partners to build new housing, we must recognize that the most affordable housing that exists is the housing that exists. And across the province, there are more than 51,000 units of social housing. And if we don't maintain and protect the province's existing supply of social housing, it will deteriorate. It will shorten its useful life, and it will leave vulnerable people at risk of losing their homes. We'll be investing in that housing to improve safety and affordability over the long term. These investments will also lower carbon emissions and cut energy costs for nonprofit providers and residents alike. And through the new housing hub, where we will be building partnerships so that we can build homes, a new division of BC Housing, We will actively seek out partnerships with faith organizations, nonprofits, and others who have available land so that together we can build the right kind of housing for British Columbians, the kind of housing that they need. Honorable Speaker, I have an example of what that would look like, because in my community, we have Hoy Creek Housing Co-op. And the co-op had been struggling for many, many years. It had deteriorated. They've had to board up a number of the units because it was not a sustainable program. And what's interesting about this housing, Honorable Speaker, is that it sits on a significant piece of land that is right by SkyTrain station. And we were at risk. We collectively were at risk of losing this housing because the Hoy Creek Co-op couldn't quite figure out what to do with this asset. They couldn't quite figure out how to turn what was a deteriorating asset into something that would be vibrant and something more that would offer more housing. And it took a lot of stumbling and fumbling and calling people and not knowing who to call and calling council and calling me as a local MLA and trying to figure out what's the best path forward. There was no leadership, Honorable Speaker. There was no place to turn. Well, this housing hub is going to be the place to turn. Now, a growing partnership between the co-op, the Community Land Trust Foundation, BC Housing, the Cooperative Housing Federation of BC, and Van City Savings Credit Union. We have partnerships that are taking flight, and those partnerships have come together to ensure that the Hoy Creek members are not displaced while they build up to 300 brand new affordable homes for the Tri-Cities. Honorable Speaker, the idea is to add those homes to the Hoy Creek site, ensuring that they are protected forever through the Community Land Trust. And that's a perfect example about what leadership looks like and how government and how our government will make a difference for British Columbians. We recognize that housing affordability is having a drastic effect on business owners whose livelihoods are being threatened because employees can't find a place to live near where they work. We know that the BC Chamber of Commerce surveyed 63% of businesses have strongly agreed that housing affordability is a major problem for them. And we understand that building homes builds the economy. It helps with job creation and supports businesses that need to attract and retain workers. I want to provide the House and you, Honourable Speaker, with an example. There's a company in Kamloops, Horizon North, that was selected to build 52 homes in Kamloops, as well as 600 modular homes in Vancouver as part of our government program to address homelessness. This factory, for lack of a better word, can build with such efficiency and such innovation and in such affordable ways that there's real opportunity to deliver real homes to real people in a really meaningful way, as well as build local jobs. When we put this order in as government, it helped this company double the number of skilled employees that they have in British Columbia. And so there's great potential through a comprehensive housing strategy to tackle affordability while at the same time strengthening the economy and supporting small local businesses. Together, Honourable Speaker, through partnership and innovation, we will build prosperity by solving problems that face British Columbians every day. And speaking of innovation, I want to make a note of a part of what we're also going to be looking at is how to use wood in building housing. And there is a tall wood building on UBC campus, and I would encourage the Speaker or anyone in the House to take a look at it. It's pretty impressive. And the opportunity to build an 18-story wood building is unheard of, and it's the tallest wood building in the world, and it's pretty impressive. And the opportunity for us to be innovative and creative and using BC wood to build homes for people is something that I think is a real golden opportunity for us, and it's an opportunity that our government is committed to exploring. The approach with tall wood is it not only allows us to build higher and faster, but the structures are also climate friendly. And by using a renewable source such as BC wood, we are supporting the forest sector and strengthening BC's industry. I want to take a moment, Honourable Speaker, to recognize the work of local governments. The province recognizes that local governments are on the front line of the housing crisis, and our government recognizes how hard they have been working to hold the pieces together of their communities as we address housing affordability. We are well positioned when we work together with local government to advance the development of new homes in communities right across this province. And we are committed to working with local governments to enable efficient planning for rental housing on pre-zoned areas for their communities, and working with them to plan and build affordable housing near transit corridors. My ministry works closely and in partnership with BC's 189 local governments, and I've appreciated the enthusiasm that local governments have shown for working with our government on housing infrastructure opportunities and important changes to the local government election campaign finance act before they head into their elections this fall. Local governments are putting forward solutions and raising the profile of some of their needs that have not been met for many years. And I want to thank all the local leaders who I have met with and who have helped to inform our government's work in these areas. Now, my ministry provides key assistance to help local governments create infrastructure for a host of essential services for communities and households. These services include clean water, wastewater management, roads, green energy, solid waste management, brownfield redevelopment, and disaster mitigation. In other words, it's the stuff we all depend on for our daily lives. What's really important, Honourable Speaker, is that we recognize that local governments have a critical role to play, not just in affordability and certainly in addressing the housing crisis, but also in making sure that our day-to-day lives run well and that we're resilient and that we're able to meet the needs of our families within the communities that we live. Our ministry supports nonprofits in BC through our community gaming grants program, and the province funds around 5,000 not-for-profit programs through $140 million in community gaming grants each year. And gaming grants, Honourable Speaker, they're available to a broad spectrum of organizations that make life better for British Columbians, representing arts and culture groups, sport, environment, public safety, human and social services, and parent advisory councils. Honourable Speaker, this is the stuff that really makes our communities thrive, and it really makes our communities the heart of our lives. I've personally experienced the positive impact that not-for-profit organizations have in strengthening communities, and I consider it very important that our government continues to support their great work. Mr. Speaker, as the Minister responsible for TransLink, I'm very proud to confirm our government's commitment to supporting the Mayor's Council for the 10-year vision that will deliver new transit and transportation capacity and make sure that projects that are critical to getting people out of traffic. I have yet to meet anyone who likes traffic. We all hate traffic, and making sure that we're supporting this Mayor's plan helps to deliver on what people want. And Mr. Speaker, what they want is they want safe, efficient ways to get to and from work, to get to whatever sporting event they're interested in, to get to visit their families, to get to visit their friends. And they want to do it efficiently, and they want to do it safely, and they certainly don't want it to be in traffic. And so, Honourable Speaker, from my perspective and our government's perspective, making sure that we're investing in transit infrastructure is a way to make sure that people have more time to spend with their families rather than traffic. Our government is also replacing the Petula Bridge and the new rapid transit projects in Surrey and Vancouver as laid out in the Mayor's vision. And as we have said before, we will fund 40% of the capital costs of the Mayor's vision and work with all levels of government to deliver on the transit and transportation infrastructure that people need. We stand by our commitments to work with the Mayor's Council to advance their vision, and we understand the timelines involved and are working closely with the mayors to advance these important projects as quickly as possible. Mr. Speaker, we are going to continue to work collaboratively with all local governments, with First Nations, with the nonprofit sector, with the development sector, and whoever else wants to join us as we bring affordability back to British Columbia. And with that, Honourable Speaker, I want to thank you and to thank all the members of the House for their time today. And noting the hour, I'd like to adjourn the debate, or I move adjournment of the debate.